The fourth State Capture Commission report, which was released on Friday, has recommended that the National Prosecuting Authority considers criminal charges against those involved in the multi-million-rand Free State Asbestos roofs debacle. Controversial businessman Edwin Sodi, former Free State head of Human Settlements, Nthimotse Timothy Mokhesi, and Thabane Zulu, a former Director General in the National Department of Human Settlements, are singled out for prosecution for their roles in the asbestos eradication project in the Free State. To help us unpack this, we're joined now by senior Newzroom Afrika reporter Tumaole Mohlaoli, who has combed through that very voluminous report. I think maybe let's start with this relationship between the corruptor and the corruptee, taking a look at EOH, a private entity. What did the report find there, and what's the recommendation?
Well, certainly the recommendation is that those who were behind the decisions in terms of EOH's untoward relationship with the service provider beneficiaries that would single out, of course, the city of Johannesburg was one of those that would have been involved with EOH in terms of its outsourcing and service providing in terms of electronics, in terms of digital services. And what the report found is that EOH in this case would have gone above and beyond the scope of its mandate in terms of trying to secure business. When you are doing business, there are certain restrictions and certain things you have to follow and certain things you can't do as detailed by legal prescripts like the PFMH, which then details out what can or what would be untoward in terms of a relationship between a service provider and a would-be contractor. So what EOH was found to have been doing, according to evidence before the Zondo Commission of Inquiry, is ingratiating itself with very high-ranking political individuals, as well as, of course, doing other sort of side projects or extra work that was not necessarily commissioned. This means that it did work that went ahead without a tendering process that would have been entered into, which goes against the legislation. So again, there's some serious questions about the executives at EOH, because they would have a structure in terms of its HR structure as, of course, an institution that works in the private sector that is really professional, that is really in tune with what it needs to do to make sure that it becomes a good corporate governance, a good corporate citizen, I beg your pardon.
Right.
So, yeah, this is what the report is looking into, and in terms of what EOH has to do. But, of course, EOH has also been heavily fined and has already admitted that it perhaps had erred when the Zondo Commission of Inquiry had those particular sittings and was hearing the evidence. It participated with the Zondo Commission of Inquiry, and it's still very much in business as far as that is concerned, because as far as the company is concerned, it has already fixed what it had done.
And how to deter something like this from happening again, I guess, would be the question. Yes, they've been fined, they're still in business. How do we stop this from happening again? Let's take a look at the Free State Asbestos case.
Yes, with the Free State Asbestos case, of course, that is something that is still before the courts and something that is quite controversial, particularly because the Free State Asbestos case has led to one Estina being forced to step aside while that particular case goes ahead, graft case, lots and lots and lots of money, 516 million at one sitting, so that's quite a lot that didn't end up servicing the people of the Free State. Now, Mohlaoli has for the longest time also said that he has no case to answer to. And interestingly enough, in the report, there is no direct finding against him or recommendation that he be prosecuted, which is interesting to do, because we know that Mohlaoli is before the dock to answer against cases of graft, corruption, money laundering. And he has for the longest time said that what are those charges against him all about, because he has not been provided with an indictment, saying that when he asked for the state to let him know exactly what it is he has to prepare for in court, he was not given the opportunity. That raises some very interesting questions as to how this prosecution is being run, because he has for the longest time, him and his supporters, said that it's actually putting the cart before the donkey, and that this case is built around testimonies that was given before the State Capture Commission of Inquiry. If I can give you, just take you back, what had happened is that there was Edwin Sodi, who's also a co-accused, and his business partner, the late Mpambane. They had a company that was given a contract to basically eradicate, firstly to count how many asbestos houses or roofs were above houses in the Free State and then eradicate them. What happened is that they said the contract was just merely to count how many roofs were in the Free State. And they basically duplicated a model that was already running in Gauteng. They were given over the 500 million rand. Now, this is where the problem comes in, because the state is arguing no work was done, hence why the corruption and, of course, the maladministration of funds, because that money allegedly found its way to others. And the state was trying to prove that Mohlaoli and others would have benefited unduly by making sure that that contract went ahead. Mohlaoli says he's never been part of any EXCO meeting that approved such a contract, and that when he's in the dock, essentially, all he knows is that he's there because he didn't conduct oversight. So that's where that stands. And the report certainly not finding or linking him directly to any questionable dealings at this stage. So certainly a lot to think about there.
Indeed, but wait, there's more. Estina Dairy Farm, I remember Malungelo Boy going there recently, where it's showing some signs of life. What did the report find there?
Well, with Estina Dairy Farm also finding that there was, gross mismanagement, gross misuse of public funds, and that, of course, as Malungelo would have reported so well, that the beneficiaries and the people of the area, the Estina Dairy Farm project beneficiaries, who were indeed the ones who were supposed to be, running this particular empowerment deal, didn't get to benefit in the least bit. Instead, that particular dairy farm ended up being managed and being run by associates of the Guptas, surprise there, and it has effectively been run into the ground. The people of Estina are still languishing in poverty, saying that this opportunity would have changed their lives because it would have made them enter the mainstream farming, particularly when it comes to dairy farming, because they had been working on the farm in Estina, the dairy farm, and they had the experience in that particular regard. It would have moved them from laborers to owners and changed their lives. So some very, very damning findings there, and Msebenzi Zwane is one of those that would have been, of course, linked to that particular farm. Some strong calls for those who would have done or not done the right thing, specifically in the provincial government structures itself, to be prosecuted.
A question that many South Africans are asking themselves. We've got thousands and thousands of pages of reports and recommendations. Now what? The NPA doesn't have capacity.
Well, this will then be up to the law enforcement agencies as well to study and to see exactly what should be done in terms of the recommendations, because the recommendations are quite strong. Because when you look at Msebenzi Zwane, again, some questions raised there about his role in the multi-billion-rand housing project. He had testified that he had accepted flights and holidays from Gupta-linked entities, saying that he didn't know that he couldn't do that. So certainly beneficiaries there not receiving what they were supposed to do. So the recommendations would be that law enforcement agencies should act promptly. This is something that Chief Justice Raymond Zondo has said very strongly, even in the beginning when he released the first report at the beginning of the year, saying that he would expect certainly that with the recommendations and the work that's being done, it will be now up to the law enforcement agencies as well as the judiciary to do its work. And we would see that, of course, we just recently also had the Judicial Services Commission that held its interview. So this is a move that was tasked at shoring up the judiciary to ensure that all the particular courts, particularly when you look at the regional courts, when you look at the high courts, and of course all the way up to the apex court, that there is capacity on that particular front. But we do know at the MPA side, the MPA has also been working very hard to try and regain those that were lost during what was a very difficult time when, of course, there was the infighting between the security apparatus, particularly the hawks and, investigators within other security apparatus like the SAPS, leading to certain high-profile cases being sidelined or being squashed or delays therein, and this led to, a loss of morale. So the NPA is also on an aggressive rebuilding phase that will see that all these spheres can then basically make sure that the recommendations are fruitful and that justice is given to the South Africans that have seen billions just waste away.
And time will tell. Thank you very much for talking us through that. Senior Newzroom Afrika reporter Tumaole Mohlaoli will no doubt bring you more coming out of that State Capture Commission report throughout the day and into the coming days here on the channel.